Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the GrindWorks podcast. This is episode 38, and for this episode, I met up with Geyer, the owner of the wheel mill, and we talked about a couple of things. One of the things we talked about was different features at the park, some of which have been described, by probably myself and other people around the wheel mill as fun killers. And it's just things that they serve other purposes other than to just be ridden. And it's a pretty good discussion. You may or may not like some of it, but that doesn't change the fact that there are reasons why things are the way they are. And I thought it was good to get with Harry and let everyone else know what those reasons are. And there is a lot of good discussion in this as far as cool things that are happening too. So hopefully that doesn't put a negative spin on this episode. There's also another section in it dealing with the current situation we're all facing, which is the COVID-19 coronavirus, government mandated shutdown, stay-at-home orders, quarantine, whatever you guys want to call it. But right now, the wheel mill is not able to be open. So there's just some discussion as to what that means, really, both short-term and long-term. And, what Harry's got going on for the wheel mill in the meantime. So definitely listen into this one. And, I think you're going to like it. So thanks.
Want to buy some tires? So I can get
I
out of here.
started that at the perfect time. That was awesome. So I think I'm just going to do an intro later. So what's up, Harry?
How's it going, Andy?
We are at the wheel mill. And I don't really want to get into the details of that yet. You and I were supposed to talk a while ago.
Yeah.
And we did talk personally. We were going to bring this onto the podcast space, and then that just didn't happen for reasons we'll get into later.
Some crazy international event.
But I guess let's just talk formalities, demographic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've been on other podcasts, you've done other interview stuff. So I think a lot of people probably know, but
yeah,
let's do it anyway.
Sure.
Who are you? Where are we? What is this place? How long have you been doing it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. I'm Harry Geyer, the owner of the wheel mill, and we had our community meeting in, March maybe of 2012. And got the blessing of everybody to be able to start the rezoning and permitting and all that fun side of the business. And at that public meeting, was Mike Hallahan, and he said, "That's really, really awesome. I take at that time 2 kids to raise 3 or 4 times a week. It would be really nice to have a bike park in Pittsburgh. I know these 2 brothers. They talk about a lot of the things that you were talking about. They've got a lot of awesome experience. Can I introduce them to you?" And boom, the Potosny brothers, which was like a package deal, because with the Potosny brothers you get, Pekich and Yeagle and Arcus and
a huge extended family.
A huge extended family,
of everyone in the BMX world, at least.
I married into a big BMX family with Mike and Mark, which was totally awesome, because it'd been a long time since I was in the BMX scene, real long time. So that was great. But yeah, we opened up April of 2013, middle of April. So we actually just had our, whatever that would be now, 7-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah, which kind of sucked having it while we're closed down.
Yeah.
But no, we're happy to be here, still kicking, and so it definitely started with like Rays being the idea, or something, something of that style. Myself being a mountain biker, but also like really loving to push what I know how to ride, having all these other things that like I couldn't ride when I was riding BMX back in the 80s, and having that available to me to even like try, it was an awesome thought. So it basically started with that, like things that were in my brain and things that were in Mike and Mark's brain, and things that we I'd have to say we had a pretty, for as much knowledge as Mike and Mark had, and as many places around mostly the country, a few outside the country rides, as much experience as we all had, I think we still had like a really like narrow, very personal, coming from our own perspective view of what we wanted to ride and what we wanted to build in the park.
Mm-hmm.
And that really changed a whole lot, like, and continues to change like year after year after year. So
I think that's good though, because one thing that you generally have that not every other park has is some variety.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even mean that around the park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that you go to a park halfway around the world from here, and they're going to have the same stupid box jump and the same stupid spine,
mm-hmm.
and a 7-foot quarter after it that's going to ride just like every other 7-foot quarter.
Yeah.
And after you travel to certain places for long enough, you're just like, why?
Yeah.
Why am I going to go somewhere else to ride the same ramps I have at home?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool to hear. That's cool. I mean, I can't say enough about Mike and Mark's creativity and their vision of kind of like banning the box word, from jumps. Like, we're not making any boxes. This is gonna feel like dirt. That was their thing. And I coming from a carpentry background, was like, I never built ramps before, but I feel like I know that if you throw some crazy shape at me, I can make sure that it's safe. You make sure that it rides good, and I'll make sure it's safe. So we like took those two things, and we're like, there's no rules, because we kind of have what we felt were like the two most important things covered. Like, it's got to be cool and ride great, and then it's got to be durable and safe. So,
right.
Which I think, like, we definitely sat around scratching our heads a lot, like, how in the world are we gonna get the wood to go this way, kind of thing, or like wondering, like, man, should we have built this out of concrete? Like, should we, we're constantly like
mm-hmm.
second guessing ourselves in a lot of areas, but and then getting hooked up with Burley Matt was huge. Yeah. Because we were just talking about him, but his like problem solving, creativity. We would just Mike and I would and Mark we'd work ourselves into like a point where we're like, okay, we got this section going from here to here, and then this other section going from there to there, but we have no idea how to connect the two together, because if we put a roller here, it's going to be too long, and if we put a jump here, it's going to be too short, and if we, we couldn't solve the problem of like, how do we connect, these two sections, because this building is so chopped up, like, you really have to take what you get. And then it was always like, well, let's just ask Burley Matt, and he'll know what to do. So he's like saved our asses on that stuff like numerous times.
I assume he's similar to my buddy Derek.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, whenever I make a cut with a saw, it's got to be like pretty well lined out and like firm, fixed against something, and like straight cuts.
Yeah.
And then I'll watch my buddy Derek stand there and look at like a bowl corner for a second. Look at his 2x4 and just hold it up in the air and just like freeform shave the 2x4 with the circular saw into shape.
Yeah.
And it fits exactly how it needs to. I'm like, dude, that is mind-boggling that you can do
ridiculous. That. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's how Burley is. It's just like, it just holds a 2x4 or 2x6 in one hand and saw in the other. And he might make like a couple pencil marks, but there's the width of the board, then there's like the angle of the templates in one plane, and then there's the angle of the templates in another plane, and then there's like the radius of the bowl, and he just like eyeballs it and like and you're like, that's insane.
I guess you can only do it so many times before you don't need to do it with like a protractor and
right
a proper miter saw anymore.
Yeah, he's got like some serious muscle memory on that. It's like, for sure. It's fun to watch.
Back to like the discussion about building it, stuff that rides like trails, not like boxes.
Yeah.
I know some of the stuff at Ray's is pretty good, and some of the stuff, I think it's just the rollers at the tops are dragged out too long, and then it goes from roller at the top directly into like transition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even going to use them as the example. Did you ever go to Cranks up in New York before they closed?
I never
down?
made it to Cranks, no.
Their original box lines were like a very long roller at the top side into the transition. And it didn't matter how you hit them. It either felt like you were casing a little bit or landing flat.
Okay.
And it had that like awful box jump feel to a lot of it.
Yeah, I couldn't find a sweet spot
and
on it.
I think I'm probably going to get the person wrong because I wasn't involved that much, but I think they had Ron Kimler come out and help them finish up some of their like berms and like rebuild a smaller jump set that had proper landings and rode a lot better.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I had made some prototype rollers, and I was like at the time I was on a 26-inch full suspension mountain bike, and you kind of can't tell a lot of the details when you're on like a full squish mountain bike when it comes to like the nuances of the shape of a roller. And like I build them and I was like, this feels pretty good. And then Mike is like, oh, like we are not using these rollers. And I was like, what? And then he built them and I was like, oh. And I got on like a rigid DJ and it was like, okay, yeah, I get it. These are like super abrupt and like don't work at all. And that was like an eye-opener for me.
Yeah.
Don't test with a full suspension bike because everything will feel kind of the same.
I've always laughed at how bad you can build something and have it still feel good, though. Like, by the time you throw 3 layers of plywood on something, it feels smooth.
Yeah,
but then you go to places that it feels like awful, and you're like, how bad did you build this?
Yeah, right. How did you get it so wrong? Yeah. It's tough. I mean,
it is, and
sometimes
that's
plywood like cracks internally, and you've got like 3/4 of a sheet nailed in, and then like this one little section is like, and you're like, oh, there's gonna be a little kink there. This sucks. But then you're like, we can't tear this whole sheet out or whatever. Sometimes Mike makes us do it, but.
Yeah, because it's just the next layer will crack as you're pumping over that spot.
Yeah, it'll just be a problem forever. You kind of have to, but yeah.
But no, that's all cool.
Yeah.
I had one more thing I was going to say about that, and I totally lost it. So we'll just go with that.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna circle back to like what we were originally going to talk about here, which is little bit of background would be I had a post on Instagram and was grinding one of the new obstacles that you built in the one room. And on that post, I don't think I said anything other than challenge accepted and maybe a questionable hashtag on there. but it prompted just a whole bunch of backlash and barrage of comments
Right.
that were like, okay, this is kind of unexpected, but
Right.
I know that it mostly brought some issues up on your side as the park owner,
Yeah.
going, where's all this coming from?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you and I had a discussion one-on-one. We talked through a lot of like what's going on and the reasons why, and I think a lot of other people probably should know what's going on from your point of view when you make a decision that someone might be like, man, that's super lame, it's a fun killer, whatever.
Right. Right. For sure.
So that's like a very high level discussion there, and I don't know that it's valuable to go into the specifics. Anyone that wants to can find that post.
Yeah.
Wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's talk about part of that discussion was keeping skill levels like for each other.
Right.
And
right.
I guess I'll let you go whichever way you want to go with this, and just let you
Yeah.
kind of to run. So
For sure. Yeah. No, that's cool. And once again, thank you for talking with me that night. I felt a lot better after talking with you about
I think it's
that
probably
stuff.
good for both of us on that one. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, maybe, so in terms of like where my motivation for pretty much anything that happens here comes from is I feel like it's my responsibility to figure out how to, number one, make sure that the wheel mill is a sustainable business. And by sustainable, that means not just how little is Harry willing to get paid and how much of he and his wife's life savings can he siphon off into the park every year, because that's not sustainable. What if something happens to me? What person, what bank, etc., is going to step in and be like, all right, let's look at the numbers and say like, okay, well, sounds reasonable to keep as a business. Let's keep the wheel mill open. We'll find somebody who's, who wants to own it, or like, just take anybody who's interested. Let's say, Andrew Vargason is like, I want to take over the wheel mill, but I'm going to need a loan. And then a bank looks at the numbers and is like, yeah, right, this doesn't make any sense. We're never going to give you a loan. And then it's like, it's over. You know? So to me, sustainability means not just for me, like I need to make this much, because that's never been what it's about. It's what if something happens to me? How do you keep the wheel mill going without some charity case kind of thing? And then beyond that, my next feeling of responsibility is, how do I come up with a business model that could potentially be used in more locations around the US / the world? Because we all know like skate parks like come and go and come and go and come and go. And like, I don't think anyone's found the formula yet to where like there's no chain of skate parks, like
I mean, Vans is probably the closest to it, or Woodward.
I mean, and Ray's tried. Milwaukee didn't work. It's
I liked that park better than the Ohio one, as just a side note.
Yeah. But money, and it wasn't a huge amount of money. Like, my understanding was it was like maybe $250,000 was the tipping point. And it's like, yeah, that's a heck of a lot of money. But if you're looking at like
not when you're looking at business.
When you're looking at business, yeah, exactly. So to say that deal got torpedoed over that, and I could be totally wrong. So, but yeah, either way, you don't see like, it's not like Sky Zone or, like all these other franchise active things that you see, like Topgolf or,
Black Mamba might be. I think it's like a little mall chain that does small pop-up parks.
Oh, okay, cool.
I might also be wrong on that, but
okay, yeah. Yeah.
Side note again.
Sure. And I'm also thinking on the scale of indoor bike park. So I'm thinking like, let's say the wheel mill would be like the smallest example of that kind of park.
Yep.
Which is kind of a different animal than like a smaller skate park. I think it is. I mean, like once you get to that scale, then there's some different dynamics that go on.
Yeah, you're not talking about the back end of an old grocery store. You're talking about an entire city block of an industrial complex, basically.
Exactly. So it's definitely a different animal. But yeah, so that's sort of like, I feel is my secondary responsibility is to keep tweaking this until I have some kind of business model where it's, number one, sustainable for us in the long term, and then number two, potentially able to get into a similar situation in a similar, city area, so that more people can have access to bike parks. And please build it totally different than the wheel mill, and so that, like you said, it's worth going to because the stuff is like original and unique and fun to ride. But the business model would be the same. Just the terrain would be different. So yeah, that's my motivation for basically every decision I make at the wheel mill from that standpoint. So, and like Mike and I have always talked about like, what's the pyramid of riders? Like you take the point of the pyramid and there's like a few riders that are that good, and what do they want? What attracts them to the park? And then how much revenue are they contributing to the park? Whether it's directly from, if they're, paying to get in, to like, if we tell people that they're coming, are other people going to come too? And like, unfortunately, like the top of the pyramid does not make any sense for revenue,
No.
And then you like go to the very bottom of the pyramid, and in it, you kind of end up in a like.
Have you found that yet?
The bottom of the pyramid? Well, the bottom of the pyramid starts turning into like, it turns into like, why aren't there more flat areas for my kid to ride with training wheels? So it's almost like you get into this like, do you guys allow tricycles? Do you guys allow scooters? Do you guys allow training wheels? Like, that's for us like the bottom of the pyramid. And so now you take those two groups and you like say like, all right, let's all ride together, and it's like, oh man, this isn't going to work very well.
Yep.
So that's like that's our challenge, is like, how do we reach the biggest number of riders, but then also how do we get those riders to be able to progress through the pyramid, because we want to see that too. We'd be much happier if we like turned the pyramid into a square, because we took all those kids that were just getting started and we like got them to be able to ride super rad, and then we were like able to be like, yeah, we're just going to make more expert level stuff because so many more kids are expert level, and it's just normal to do that now. Like that would be cool if we could kind of square up the pyramid a little bit. But yeah, so we are to be able to have a business model where we can appeal to a largest number of people so that they'll come and pay to get in, and we can keep the lights on. We end up with these challenges of, this is how a 4-year-old kid on a balance bike rides, and this is how a 22-year-old guy who's been riding since he was 3 years old rides the woods jump room. And then like it gets kind of nuanced, and that's where we like had that conflict of like user groups, basically, because we had this feature that was like intended for like basically like balance bike, just got off training wheels level riders, but it also ended up being like the perfect session piece for like higher level street riders, or people with pegs or whatever.
Well, and I think even going back to your pyramid example at that point, you're not talking about one pyramid.
Yeah.
You're talking about a handful of different pyramids under different disciplines.
Yeah,
that, like,
sure.
they blend together at the base,
Mhm.
but there's multiple points on that pyramid. So
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
once you hit a certain point, there's expert level features that are for this group,
Yeah.
expert level features for this group.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's tough. Different riders want to ride the same thing different ways, and so like we try to solve that problem purely by creating purely with physical space, like putting something in a line that just has zero appeal to a certain other rider, and but there's never any, like, if you're an expert rider, everything is backwards compatible,
Yeah.
like, and that's the cool thing. And that's like one of the beautiful things about BMX is that you can take the most simple of things and you can session it and do like the coolest thing on it. And which makes it really hard to like design away that user conflict, because anything a beginner is going to be able to ride, an expert level rider is going to be able to do something cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get into like the sociological side of it, where it's like you got a young rider that's most likely from a family of non-riders, or it's a situation we just see a lot here, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
mom's bringing in a kid on a strider, or the babysitter's bringing in a kid on a strider, and like the babysitter isn't like, they're not like shredding, they're just like, their parents told me to bring them in, and so they don't know anything about bike culture, and they see these like obviously like skilled riders in this area that's green, that they thought that was the right area for their little rider, and but then they see all these other riders and they're like, I guess we shouldn't ride here, and they're just not confident enough to say anything like, hey, do you guys mind if my kid or this kid rides his balance bike through here? Because everyone here is super friendly, and if they did ask that question, like everyone here would be like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead, yeah, we'll get out of the way, which is like the other crazy part of it.
And not being familiar with bike culture, doesn't understand that even though we're all ripping around there, maybe going 3 times faster than what this kid's going to go, maybe more than that.
Yeah.
They don't understand that, like, we're constantly scanning the area. Like,
Sure.
We are not going to hit this kid.
Yep.
99.5% of the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And then the other part of it that I noticed, because I mean it's my job to observe all this stuff, I'll like hang out in a corner of a room, and what'll happen is these, like a parent and their small child will get near an area to where they just can see it visually, and they see a group of whatever young, whatever kind of group it is, some group of kids there or young adults or whatever, expert level riders sessioning. They won't even like go the rest of the way into that area. They either just like bypass it or they like turn around and go away. And that, to me, when I saw that happening like repeatedly, I was like, oh man, this is like, I need to address this some other way, because these people aren't even like going far enough to where, like what you said, like, I know you guys are always looking out to make sure you don't run into anybody. Like we don't even have the opportunity to get to that point, because these people are just looking and deciding for themselves, like, maybe this isn't the area I should bring my kid. And
how many times can a person do that in one day at the same place before they just don't come back?
Exactly. And not only that, but we have the exact opposite problem, which is why we put all those signs up that are like, no balance bikes in this area, no balance bikes in this area, no balance bikes in this area, because like they were getting into the pump track. And like, it's same thing for me. Like how many times do you go by the pump track and see a kid on a balance bike there before you're like, screw this, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to go to another room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, So the same thing happens like in reverse. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna even bring that up because whether it's kids on balance bikes or just like low level kids that are pedaling around the ramps
Yeah.
in the big or in the park room, and you're like,
Yep.
I guess I'm gonna go hit box jumps for a few minutes before
Yeah,
we
for
let
sure.
this clear out. And
Yeah. Let the flat
but
bottom party come to a conclusion.
but you're unique in the sense that your park affords that option to just go to another room.
Yeah, and that's I think a reasonable ask to some degree, to be like, hey, there are other people here that are trying to, because for me, like, you know, I like, I'm still learning how to ride the mini ramp and that kind of transition riding and stuff like that. So I'm not going to go into like the mini ramp and like do a full shred session on it, because like I can't, like I might be like airing out 3 inches, air out 3 inches, air 3 inches, and then be like, okay, I'm really dizzy now and I'm going to leave, So, but it's not that I'm not trying and I don't want to be part of that scene, it's just that I'm just not there yet. And, so like, yeah, so you have kids that just flat out don't belong in a certain area. And then you have kids that are like, they don't belong yet, but if they don't try, they'll never belong. And then you got people who've got it, more or less figured out, and they're, doing their session there. So yeah, we don't want the kids that have no business being there. Like you can't even like make a turn in the flat bottom without falling down.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't be in the park room if you can't like ride around the spine without falling down.
If you can't functionally use the quarter pipe as a berm to at least aid with your turnaround.
Yeah. Then please, like, suck it up and go practice somewhere else. Like, so yeah, we're trying to do it in both directions. Like make sure that people don't just like visually look and without even saying anything. Cause I've talked to parents, of kids on balance bikes where I'm like, hey, did you guys see the sign that says no balance bikes in this area? And they're like, I've had them over and over, different parents say, oh yeah, but there was no one here. And so, but if someone comes in, we get out right away. And I was like, well, do you realize that when a rider comes into the room and they see a kid on a balance bike in the pump track, that they just ride right by and they don't even bother stopping? Because they don't want to be mean to you and be like, hey, you get out of the, like everyone here errs on the side of being really nice, which is awesome. But then it also like creates its own problem because people like aren't actually saying like, hey, there aren't supposed to be balance bikes here. Like I'd like to take a lap on this thing. So that's our job. Like we don't want to make a park where people have to be confrontational.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's like, to the rider's point, everyone has just as much right to be in that park space as anyone else does to a degree. So, like, if I were the one saying, man, I really want to go ride the park room right now, and I go back there and there's 12 little kids back there, like, they have just as much right to be back here as I do. So let them have their fun and I can come back in 20 minutes. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I think there's a limit to that.
But I'm also biased in the sense that, like, one, I have a pass.
Yeah.
I can come and go pretty much as I please.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm also a local. So, like, those two things pair well to just be like, whatever, another time.
Really, yeah. This is not a battle I need to fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you drove 3 hours and you're like, you've got one day in town and, like, yeah, then that's like a different story. And there's really no reason that those kids need to be there. There are plenty of other things for them to be entertained on. Like we built all this other stuff for them to be entertained
that
on.
afford the same obstacles.
Yeah.
For the most part. And
are probably set up in a way that's better for them to actually progress their riding. So yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. Like it would be, and Mike and I talked about this, like, especially early on, like trickle down economy kind of thing. And we thought like there would be more trickle down effect of like, let's build the hard stuff and get the better riders in here, and then other people will follow them in, and trickle down economy doesn't work for for anybody. It didn't work for us. It's cool and I love it, and but it doesn't work that way.
It might speak to why most parks only exist around 10 years.
Yeah, you think?
You build everything that the current scene can handle.
Okay.
Those people age out of riding or riding that often, let's even say.
Yeah.
And, you've brought in not a sustainable replacement set.
Right.
Because you couldn't get them up to speed quick enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Plus, something that you guys have done really well about, at least from the outsider perspective, like a lot of those parks that get into the 5-year club or whatever start just letting people ride for free. They let their friends in. They let any high level pro, not pro, whatever, the local pro.
Right.
Oh, you can come in for free.
Right.
Which starts out with like a free shout out, and then people show up, and then it gets lazy, and they're like, yeah, you're going to let me in anyway. I don't even really need to do the shout out.
Yeah. And that's something that like really impressed me about like a lot of the local pro riders here, is that they were like, no, I want to pay because I want you to be around like for a long time so I can keep riding here. And they knew exactly what you're saying, where it's like, yeah. And I've had a couple of owners, like park owners, tell me like, yeah, that's been a huge problem and a huge cause of parks closing is the buddy system. So yeah, I mean, I want to be able to pay our staff a living wage, at the least. So yeah, I can't like do that to them and all that business. And so yeah, but yeah, I mean, you have to create that rider pipeline, I think, because kids are going to find other things that they enjoy more than bike riding. So like that base of the pyramid is going to get smaller just because kids are like, yeah, it was really fun, but I'm into this other thing,
Yeah.
And I think if you like, the nice thing about the park is that it's like zero pressure. And that's one thing that I was surprised that I've seen throughout the years, is that I feel like that attitude of the park is so much about like just hang out with your friends and have fun and ride and just enjoy riding. And it's not about like one-upping and all this other kind of stuff. That there are a number of kids, and you might even know some of them, that they don't come here too often now that they're 13, 14, 15 because they're into something else. But when they do come, they're just like, bloop, they like fit right in and they have a good time. And it's just that like bike riding isn't their number one thing anymore, but they're not afraid to come back, which I'm really happy about that they feel comfortable of like, oh yeah, I don't have to be like anything special to show up and have fun riding bikes.
Yeah. So I think that also pairs well with the skill level of the park too. They can go take a couple practice laps somewhere before they have to dive into the woods room big line and
right. Get a little warmed up.
Man, haven't ridden in 9 months, say, and they gotta shake the rust off on the big line. They might not want to.
Yep, for sure. But I think kind of like back to your original question or topic, we need to do a better job of communicating to all of the riders. And we've been kind of like thinking of video ideas of how to do this, of like bringing it to everyone's attention of like, hey, different people use the park in different ways, and maybe in a long format, kind of go into like, hey, this type of rider uses this feature this way, and then this type of rider is going to use it this way, and we can share it as long as we all take our turn. And then like also be like, this is why we don't allow balance bikes in this area, and then this is why we ask expert riders to not session the green area, that kind of thing. So just kind of explain to people like, it's not just because we like to tell people you can't do this or you can't do that. It's just sort of like So I used to live in Taiwan for a while, and there was a town in the south of the island that when you get to a red light, you go, and when you get to a green light, you stop, because everyone kept running the red lights. So in order not to get into an accident, when you got to an intersection that had a green light, you would just slow down and come to a stop, expecting people to run the red light. So it just flipped. And like, I was like, God, that's so insane. And then I'm like here at the wheel mill, and I see like striders in the park room and an expert rider's sessioning the green line. And I'm like, oh my God, it happened here.
Like it's not that insane after all.
I guess it's not that insane. Like, this is what humans will do if you leave them to their own devices. So like, part of it's just like, yeah, we're just like corralling like human nature, because like you let a few striders into the park room and like, or whatever, and like, and the expert riders are like, we can't really session here anymore because it's been overtaken. And then they move off to the green lines, and then some beginner riders just come in, just come into the park, and they're like, okay, I can't ride the green line. Where are all the other beginner riders? Oh, they're all in the park room. I'll go there too. And you end up with like Bizarro World. So, which is like fun for a second because you can ride different things, but it's not really like functional for the park. So yeah.
It's terrible for those out of towners.
Yeah, they come in and like, what is going on? Like, so, yeah, that's kind of the idea.
And then that like will transition. I think you touched pretty much all of that part.
Yeah.
Other than like also maybe the safety side of things more.
Oh yeah, right.
Because our discussion led into like training seminars and whatnot that you and Mike, at the very least, have attended or listened to in some fashion.
Yeah, that was a huge eye opener for Mike and I when we got invited to participate in the National Ski Area Association conference this last summer. It was held at Seven Springs, and Keith from Rays was invited to speak, and we spoke with Keith on a panel about how indoor parks and outdoor parks could potentially collaborate, or and like share information about demographics and all kinds of things essentially. And luckily we were able to attend a lot of other sessions while we were at the conference, other than just the one that we were speaking at. And so Mike and I kind of divided and conquered, and we did a little bit of everything, but actually the vast majority of sessions that were at this conference, and it was a 2 or 3 day conference, were about risk management. And like Seven Spring, or like the Ski Area Association had their like couple people from their legal counsel there, and you're just like, should I have legal counsel for risk management? And it was like only for risk management, wasn't their legal counsel for anything else. And then finding out that these parks have like full-time risk management departments. I'm like, we have like one person in each department, and we don't have a full-time risk management department. And they're talking about like, oh yeah, well, we use this particular software and these special cameras that tell you like elevation and distance, and we use this other special camera that you can take pictures of the accident scene, and it'll create a 3-dimensional rendering of the incident. And we're just like, oh geez, we're like
you look up with your rock hammers and just go, oh.
Yeah, totally. It was like, are we missing something? But I mean,
you're not in such a developed industry.
Yeah.
Like we talked about, skate parks exist for like a max of 10 years in most cases.
Yeah. And like, we don't see the numbers that a ski resort sees. And, so like we were listening to like the numbers that they do, and like they'll have on a busy weekend in the winter, like Seven Springs will have as many people as we'll have an entire year. They'll see in just one weekend, like Friday through Sunday. That would be like our annual attendance they would do in 3 days. So it's like, yeah, it doesn't even compare. So after we got over the shock of all that kind of stuff, we were listening to, what they were talking about, and the principles are, design, inform, maintain. So design things safely, inform people about them, and make sure you maintain everything so it isn't falling apart. And so those ideas were developed as far as, like what does it mean to design something safe for safety, not just like design so that it doesn't fall apart, but design it so that, there's an expectation of safety, when people use it. If it's an expert trail, that it has expert features. If it's a beginner trail, it only has beginner features on it. And we had already been doing a lot of that at the wheel mill in terms of making changes to adjust things as we noticed traffic patterns and things like that. But it really was a big eye opener, and we kind of went back and took a look at each room and looked at it and asked ourselves, like, what did we design this room to do? And what we designed it to do, is that inherently safe, or are we asking for problems? And we got to the pump track and we're like, yeah, we designed this thing for these sweet transfers where you end up going backwards. And then we were like, oh man, like that's where you get, that's where the lawyers tear you apart, when they're like, yeah, you designed this thing for head-on collisions, and we were like, oh,
you're like,
God.
but
yes, I understand your point. So, we were just like, okay, I think we need to put these barriers up, and then have special sessions where it's like controlled so that we don't have head-on collisions. And, and it's like, because like, after we did that, or right before we did that, I watched a kid, like, he rolled down the BMX gate, and he went off the first roller into the Industry 9 berm, and then he rolled the whole track backwards to get back out as like other kids were coming in forwards. Because you get a bunch of like 7-9-year-old kids, and they're like not thinking about these things. So you have to design it so that it's foolproof for these kids and some adults who aren't thinking about those things. Because a lot of people are like, if I can do it, it must be okay to do it. Like, if it is physically possible for me to do something, then the park must be telling me it's safe to go do that thing. And like, I don't think that's rational, but there are a lot of humans out there that are like, if I can physically do this, then the park must be telling me it's okay to do this.
I see that other people could think that way, and I think there's a parallel thought that like, it's okay sometimes.
Well, yeah, but that's a more rational thought.
That's where you're like, yes, it is. But everyone needs to be on the same page here, and you need to be able to go, should I do this now? Right. Look both ways and go, yeah, not the right time.
Yeah.
You see it even on like the small jump line. There'll be a kid that's just like, can I hit it backwards? And there's like 10 people on the deck running laps, and like they'll kind of block the entrance. Be like, can I go backwards on it? And you're like, there's like 10 people going right now, man. Yeah. Why do you need to hit it backwards?
Yeah.
I just want to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. Fine. Do it. But then he'll run like 4 laps on it. And you're like, whoa, man. Whoa.
Yeah.
We gave you the like okay to do it one time to like get it off your chest and now join the rotation. But
this isn't like...
What are you doing?
Yeah, definitely. And it's way harder with kids because their like concept of other humans is like very limited. But yeah, even some adults like they're telling you about that kid that got T-boned by an adult who was a good rider, but just didn't realize that the kid was a better rider. And got around the track way faster than he thought he could. So yeah, even like, stuff like that happen. So, and that's really like, it's really our responsibility, especially as we invite the bottom of the pyramid in to come ride. Like, we're not expecting these people to be like, oh, I've watched 3,000 videos on YouTube, so I kind of have a feel for, you know, what skate parks look like. You've got like a friend of some other kid's mom's friend that was like, oh, I heard that their kid had a lot of fun at the wheel mill, so I'm bringing them, and they've never watched, you know, they have no idea the dynamic. So like, it's those people that we have to design kind of foolproof safety for.
Or it's Joey's birthday party, and his entire class got invited, and no one even knew what it was before they showed up.
For sure. And honestly, like I don't want this to be Chuck E. Cheese, and we like draw the line on a lot of things for like beginner riders and that kind of deal, and kids playing on ramps and stuff like that. And like we, you know, but we have gained so many riders that came here with birthday parties, and we're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And that's what we want. I mean, I feel like everyone in the sport should want that, because the other part of my goal is like, we want like park riding, freestyle riding, that kind of like technical riding, like that kind of riding. We want that to be like a basketball court and a baseball diamond. Like, we want every town to be like, yeah, of course you would have a skate park, you know, an outdoor park or some kind of pump track, or like, we want it to be like when you go to the, you know, the council meeting in every town, like all the moms are like, we need a pump track, you know, or we need a quarter pipe, you know, like, as opposed to like, why isn't there a baseball diamond for my kid to play at?
You got 20 baseball diamonds in this town.
Yeah. How about one pump track? You know, like, that's my other goal, is like, let's make this so normal that every angry mom and dad is at the, you know, whatever, at the school board meeting and at the city council meeting saying like, we need a pump track for our kids. We need a skate park for our kids. Like, we need to just make it normal for normal humans, and like, so that we all benefit, you know, from it. Yep. So that when they put freaking sand in the skate park, you have every mom and dad calling up city council and being like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. That whole situation's kind of funny. I like that there was sand almost immediately dumped at City Hall. Did you see the Craigslist post about that too?
That's right. Yeah.
Free sand, you all.
I wanted to put it in an open public place so that it would be safe for social distancing.
That's good.
It's pretty awesome. Like, hats off to whoever did all that.
I like Polish Hill, but I also like the comments that are like, well, it's a good thing you chose literally the worst park in the area to do that at.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
That's real funny, though. Well, I mean, you led into the discussion about the pump track walls, so that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. But on the broader vision of that same thing, like, as you've observed your patrons, riders, family members, random guests, whatever you want to call, different types of people that come in here, and attended conferences and just kind of learned through the years now. How has your vision of the park itself changed?
Like what I see for the future of the park, or
I mean, obviously things have had to change to accommodate what you're seeing, but maybe it's another good question. What is your primary demographic right now? Like, I guess if you're appealing to the bottom of the barrel, you get striders and you get BMX bikes because that's what 12-year-old kids get.
That's what's on sale at Target. Yeah.
But like maybe even percentages would be cool. Like, how many mountain bikes do you get in here? I guess you'd probably have to break that hardtail, full suspension.
Yeah.
And BMX, and like, what are they riding?
Right. It changes a lot throughout the year, for obvious reasons in terms of or maybe not obvious reasons, in the winter we're super busy, and people from all over the place. And then like we're dead in September if it's like dry and warm and everything outdoor is awesome, then we're pretty dead here, which makes total sense. Summer, we're filled with like kids in summer camp. And that's been, Mike just has been crushing that program, and we've been able, and I think it's pretty representative of, what we're able to do with kids. Like we started off with one camp. It was like kids summer bike camp, and it was one level and that was it. And now we have 5 levels of camp. So I think that really speaks to like how we're able to develop riders at the wheel mill, where we now have a camp where we actually just take kids out of the wheel mill and go ride other skate parks. And then like we can work on particular things at the wheel mill, but then yeah, they just go out and they put what they've learned here to use everywhere else and kind of broaden their worldview a little bit. And but even the fact that we have so many kids that have stuck with it and love it enough to where we have 5 levels of camp is pretty awesome. And I would say that, I think so we're so constrained by space and we're constrained by budget. And like if space was not a concern and budget was not a concern, then yeah, things would definitely look different and be different. So it's a tricky question to answer, because so many of the things that we do are because this is the best we feel like we can do with the space that we have and in the budget that we have. And so I would say, like on the mountain bike demographic, a lot of mountain bikers have finally realized if I spend the winter at the wheel mill on a 20-inch bike or on a dirt jumper, when I go back out to the trails in the spring, my riding is a billion times better. And that's finally caught on. So a lot of big wheel bike riders have just bought dirt jumpers and spent the winter, working on transition riding and that kind of thing. And that's just kind of like part of the routine now, which I think is awesome. And there are also a lot more mountain bikers that are like, I want to learn how to ride the woods room on my 29er. And there are a lot more of those people. And that's been pretty cool to just see like some guy who's like 37 years old on like a fully rigid, fat tire 29er spend like 2 months straight hammering away in the woods room, and then just finally just like get to where he's like flying through everything and just like, hell yeah, dude, you rocked it. Like that was awesome. And like, it's just like a person who you never would have expected, like, oh, here's this, middle-aged guy on a single speed 29er rigid. That's like, yeah, I am determined to shred the woods room. And so like, that's super cool to see that. But BMX, I think, is still like our largest demographic, I would say. And it's also really cool to see a lot of mountain bikers are like, yeah, I ride a 20-inch bike. They're like, I tried riding a dirt jumper, but I feel like I can do so much more on a 20-inch bike. And like, that's a really special thing to me, to see people kind of like let go of their egos a little bit and let go of their, like, not just their ego, but I think a lot of people have like real strong identity, and they're like having this hard time because like, I've been on mountain bike rides, and if you like jump something or bunny hop something, then like people will like label you like, oh, well, you're a BMXer. And I'm like, dude, the last time I rode BMX was like the last BMX race I did, I was 8 years old. Yeah. So like, I don't think I could be called a BMXer at this point. That was 40 years ago. But they like see you do something with some skill and they're like, oh, well, you're a BMXer. You're not a mountain biker. And you're like,
Like, what's that even mean?
What does that even mean? Why are you like saying it dismissively? And like, why can't I be in your little club just because I can bunny hop a log? You know?
Well, and no disrespect to anyone on a mountain bike, but probably ride better than you. in a lot of the cases, when you go out to the mountain bike trails and you like,
yeah,
I've only been out a handful of times, but
yeah,
you shoot a skinny,
yeah,
because it's a bridge over a little ravine, and you're like,
yeah,
all right, and then like you look back and you're like, wait a minute.
yeah.
All these guys struggle with this? Like, I thought that was just the tool to get from this side to that side. I didn't realize it was an obstacle.
Yeah. It's just the way you go. Yeah, definitely. There's some, and it's great to see that it's changing where people are like letting go of that identity of, and letting go of like their ego, thinking like, I don't want to do this technical stuff because then I have to confront how bad I am at riding. And it's like, dude, nobody cares. Like,
I don't know if you've ever realized this. Most people aren't watching you.
Yeah, nobody cares what you're doing. Yeah. If you come in here thinking that suddenly all eyes are going to be on you, then like, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry to disappoint you, but we don't care about you that much. We're just happy to see you here.
That even goes the other way too, because anyone on a BMX bike is like, oh, mountain bikes, stupid mountain bike.
Sure.
And you're like, I don't know if you ever realize this, but all bikes are fun.
Yeah. Like, and it's also like you get some people on a BMX bike and they try to go for a mountain bike ride and they get like 2 miles in and they're like, and you're like, yeah, dude, they put some time into their fitness. Like they've got some mad fitness. Like they dedicated a lot of time to that. So
even you've been seeing it a lot with the spin classes. You're wiping people out with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
People that thought they could ride all day long spend 20 minutes in there and they're dead.
Yeah, you're like, no, sorry, dude, you can't do like 2 laps on the pump track and take 8-minute break,
Yeah, that's not actually working out.
Yeah. Let's go eat some Twix. All right. Yeah.
I'm so bad at having notes. The last handful of podcasts I've done, I've actually written notes down and sent them ahead of time. And
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Am I accidentally becoming legit?
Yeah.
No, then I don't want to miss anything that I had written down.
No, that's cool.
But I think we talked about a whole lot of the first section.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe to wrap part 1 of this up is like, if you think something's lame at the park, you should maybe ask why it's like that.
For sure.
Because there's a lot of stuff, and I could drop names if I really felt like it, and myself included here and there. But like, sit out there and you're like, this is so dumb.
Yeah.
Like, why would we do this?
Right.
But there's reasons.
Yeah.
If you ask the right person,
right,
you'll get a good answer. But
yeah.
If you don't want a good answer, then just keep sitting out there being mopey and sad and annoying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all create a story about why something's happening, and if most of us created, and myself included, you create a story that supports like your view of the world and like how oppressed you are and like all this kind of stuff and how the man's keeping you down and like all that kind of business. And it's like, because if you actually found out the real story, then you'd find out that you kind of like, there's certain things like you have to just suck it up, to be part of a society.
The way I always put it is, you don't have to like it to understand it.
Right.
And if you can be open-minded enough to at least listen and understand the answer, then you can be open-minded enough to go, look, I see your point too.
Right.
But
and it's like weird to say, like, I'm asking you not to ride this because I want you to be able to ride the wheel mill for the next 20 years. Which sounds contradictory to be like, you're not allowed in this area because I want the wheel mill to be here for you. But that's kind of like what's happening is like, if I can't, if we stop the pipeline by like intimidating all these young families and riders, then the wheel mill, like once that pipeline dries up, like you said, like then we're over. So, and if you don't care about like the future of the sport, beyond just your own riding, then I don't really want to hear your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to hear somebody's like, oh, well, I'm moving in 5 years, so I don't give a crap what happens to the wheel mill after 5 years, or like whatever. Like, I don't want to, I'm not going to listen.
You're just
to that
a dick
person.
though.
Yeah. Like, I don't care about your opinion, but if you care about the sport 10 years from now, 15 years from now, if you like, maybe you're going to have kids, maybe you're not, but like if you still want to see the sport growing, like not just clinging to life, but actually like growing and replacing some of these other sports that are kind of like shoved down our throats, like, then I would like, and you still have an opinion about it, then I want to hear that, but like, yeah, there's nothing that I'm doing, like, there's nothing that I'm doing because I want to keep people from doing stuff. And sometimes, and here's the other part maybe that I don't think I talked about, is that we're so like slim staffed here that like when a build project gets done, it's because like I'm pulled away from like all the stupid paperwork that I have to do. It's because I pull Mike away from all the obligations that he has to do. And so we're like always rushing to catch back up with all the other crap that we have to do. So like sometimes the signage isn't there, or the instructional video isn't there, or like the full explanation isn't there, or like some of the finishing touches aren't there because we're like, okay, it's writable. We need to like, I need to send these emails. I need to get this newsletter out. I need to, talk to these sponsors. I need to, whatever. And it's like, so like a lot of times, and it's our fault. Like we don't make the full communication of like, hey, we just built this line. It's for beginner riders. Make sure that they're able, always able to ride it, that kind of thing.
I'm going to speak for all of BMXers just based on the way we have to be riding street.
Yeah.
BMXers don't read signs.
Yeah.
If we read signs, then we're obligated to acknowledge that they exist.
That's right. Yeah. That was another thing that I learned in Taiwan. Like if you didn't want someone to pull out in front of you, don't look at them. Because once you make eye contact, now you've become responsible for both of your behaviors.
Yeah. Oh, they totally saw me.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's really like everything that we do here is like to try to make sure that the park is sustainable, and that like that we could put some money in the bank so that when one of you guys comes up with a great idea of how to remodel the park room, we're like, hell yeah, let's do it. We've got some money in the bank. But if we're always like scraping for money, then it's like, well, no, we can't afford to remodel the
I got some scrap triangles. Go piece it together.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, so it's just like, it really like will benefit everybody, if we're able to like make sure that all the different types of riders all get their, are able to ride, and like new people that you don't even realize you just kind of, it's almost like you have to keep the space clear so that when those people show up, it's there for them. And that's the hardest thing, is to be like, there's nobody else riding it. Why can't I ride it? That's like next to impossible to ask somebody to do. But unfortunately, that's kind of like part of the human dynamic.
There's a lot that you're not seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
And there might be times that we can make adjustments for something like that. Say like a jam day where you only have high level riders at the park.
Exactly. Yeah. And
like, then no one's going to question why you're riding here.
Right.
You became the beginner because you're not as good as most of the people here.
Yeah. And that's something Mike and I were working on before all this crapola happened, of like doing like transfer night in the woods room, doing transfer night on the pump track. And I intentionally made those barriers so that they fit between the lines, so we can just tip them over and you won't even know they're there, and it'll be good to go. But like, we're like, yeah, we have to do it to where it's like kind of like sanctioned, like now's the time where you can ride all these lines and we can ride them backwards and forwards, and there's a staff person there to make sure that nobody like enters the line going the wrong way. And so like that's exactly what we're going to be moving towards, is like, hey, let's open up all these other areas to expert level riders, but we're going to just do it on Wednesday night from 6 to 10 or something like that. So but yeah, I mean, I think that's the way we're going to have to handle it. So Because I love watching that riding. I think it's genius the way Mike and Mark designed it to be able to do that. And I would hate to be like, nope, just hope everyone enjoyed it because it's never happening again. Like, I don't want, it doesn't have to be that way. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And I think a lot of people probably don't know that. And hopefully they'll find it out if they listen, if they've listened this long.
That's right. You got to chop this thing down pretty good with the editing.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like we've wasted any time in it.
Nobody's got anything better to do right now with their lives.
That's a true statement, though. Actually, coming up, like right now, everyone's might not have anything better to do, but they're also not spending time in the car.
That's true.
So I've noticed in the couple episodes that I've posted recently that it's like way down from what's normal.
Right.
And I don't think it's that the content sucks. I think it's that like, look, I usually spend maybe 45 minutes a day in the car.
Right. Exactly.
And I sit at home now and don't. I have other entertainment afforded to me.
Yeah.
So I borderline expect these numbers to actually go back up eventually.
Right.
People that are catching up or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But that does bring us to a whole bunch of other discussion. The fact that this discussion we just had was supposed to be about 2 months ago now.
Right.
And we had everything set aside from a date to have that discussion.
Yeah.
And the world fell apart. So, with that said, it is what? Is it the 14th?
Yeah.
May 14th?
Yeah, I think so.
How long has the wheel mill been closed?
We've been fully closed since the day it was mandated. The 16th, I think, was the day that everything
was it March?
Yeah.
So 2 months.
2 months, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal.
And tomorrow we enter Pennsylvania's yellow phase for reopening.
Yep.
And that essentially gives you no answers for like an end in sight, a target reopening date. I mean, nothing, right?
Yeah, like kind of how we were talking earlier. I think the best information we're going to get is like how bad it spikes up again after the reopening, and then that might give us a little bit of a better guess on how this whole thing's going to play out. But so maybe ask me again in 3 weeks when everyone's really sick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or when we realize everyone's fine.
Or that everyone already got it,
and that we're all moving up to green phase or something. But
yeah.
I think I saw it today. It might have been last night, but they don't even have guidelines for green established yet. They don't know what parameters are going to be evaluated and to what levels to move someone from yellow to green.
Yeah, like the whole contact tracing and all that kind of stuff, I believe, is seemingly out the window right now. Like everyone's saying we don't have the capacity for that. So, and honestly, I don't even feel like the willingness on the society level is there to go through the trouble of it, No,
I mean, when you hear about if you go to a restaurant, you have to give your name and a contact number to get seated in there and pass the temperature scan and a list of protocol questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll just get my order to go. It's fine.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It is so, like we're all, we talked about it a little bit before, but, when if it's happening to you or you're right next to it, it's the real deal and it's like really frightening. But you get a little bit of distance away from it and it can just seem like, what is everyone talking about? This is stupid,
Yeah, like people that are living in rural parts of the country, why are we locked down, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah.
And of course, like let those people continue to exist.
Yeah.
I mean, you're noticing that all the outbreaks are centered around major international airports.
Yeah.
There's pretty good reason for that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know,
I watched that movie too.
We got it last.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So anyone that's coming in from anywhere in the world, not just China.
Yeah. 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 Try Italy and everywhere else.
You know, with a disease that takes so long to realize you even have it, or you might never realize that you have it, like just the silent carriers.
Yeah, for sure.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, it just spreads out of those ports of origin because they interacted with the person that, you know, sold them a candy bar at the way overpriced airport store.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that person interacted with 8,000 other people that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Aren't you glad that Pittsburgh's not a hub for for flights like it used to be?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, look at like New York City and Philadelphia.
Oh yeah.
Philly is going to be locked down for I mean, I'm anticipating a while yet.
Yeah.
I can't see them just like, move to yellow as well. You'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, my sister and her husband got it and in Brooklyn, and I was basically like on call with them every day and was like, if you guys need to go to the hospital, I will come pick you up and bring you to Pittsburgh, because there are no beds left, no ventilators left. It was like scary, you know, when you're in that situation, you know, in those areas where like the demand far exceeds the capacity. So, but then, you get like to Allegheny County and we have like 3 hospitals per person. It's like awesome, you know, like we're way on the right side of that equation as far as, you know, anything to happen here. But, there are other places that like had some major problems, or probably still going to have major problems. So
yeah, and it's, I mean, travel picking back up is going to be a while.
Yeah.
I can't see a lot of stuff being that practical probably for the remainder of this year. And it's, I don't know what that really means, and we can sit here and speculate all we want, but
sure. Yeah.
I don't know that there's much value in that. But like, while you've been shut down, I know you still have product. Bicycle shops have been allowed to do curbside pickup, stuff like that.
Yep.
Are you technically open, or are you kind of on a case-by-case basis?
We are open for remote sales. So, and we're going to probably put more stuff online to let people know what we still have in stock.
Okay.
We can still order stuff for people. So we're trying to shift gears a little bit to make that a little bit easier, because right now it's been like, you know, message Mike on Instagram and he'll get you that stem you want, you know, that kind of thing. So, and as you can see, we're sitting in this room with like the whole shop piled into it. It's a little bit hard to find stuff right now. And we're in the middle of renovating the whole retail space and the shop space, to hopefully in the not too distant future be able to do that much more efficiently, and then also to be able to take in like regular bike repairs, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that question almost feels weird to ask because you've historically not been a shop.
Right. Yeah.
You've
definitely.
almost been like, not aggressively, but you've just been opposed to it for various reasons. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that.
For sure.
What's spurring the transition even?
I mean, we definitely, we just didn't have the capacity from a space standpoint and from a staffing standpoint, and just any other business logistics standpoint to have a shop. And then the other part of it was, local shops just have always supported us really nicely, and we didn't want to step on any toes. And selling BMX parts was always kind of a relief to a lot of local shops that were like, oh, thank God we don't have to carry BMX stuff and try to figure out what the latest colorway is. And that's worked out really well. they felt like they can help their customers by sending them to us, so everybody wins. But what's changed is that, I mean, cycling just keeps getting more and more popular in the region, and there are just a lot of people that kind of complained to us, like especially last fall when we just had those long stretches of beautiful weather, that they were waiting like 5 weeks for their bikes. And I don't think that that's good for the sport in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you make somebody wait 5 weeks, they're going to go to another sport. They're going to be like, well, I'm going to go climbing, or I'm going to go kayaking, or I'm going to go do some other sport.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if my bike's not going to be done for 5 weeks and it's beautiful weather and I know it's going to be a crap winter, like, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think that's like not healthy for the sport if you are like stretched that thin on service. So I think it'll actually help the region if we're able to keep people riding their bikes all summer long. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just another part of trying to tweak the business model to make sure that we're sustainable. So, like, if you're a shop and you have to tell your customer, like, hey, I'm sorry, it's going to be 5 weeks before I can get to your bike.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to have that conversation because they're going to be pissed off. So if we're there and that bike shop, we still plan on having very congenial relationships with all those shops. But if that shop can be like, hey, it's going to be 5 weeks before we can get your bike, but the wheel mill just opened up a repair shop, why don't you give them a call and see how quick they can get you in? Like, that customer is going to be grateful. They'll probably still go back to their original shop because, they were like, hey, they wanted to, but they couldn't, but they referred me to another place. So I think it's another one of those win-win situations where, like, we're in a good position here in the area where there are so many cyclists that I think it'd be good to have another repair shop.
I think there's a flip side to that too that has probably been missing all along. That's all these people that have come here for the first time and rented bikes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You are their shop.
Yeah.
So to hold their hand up to the point that they're ready to buy their own bike and be like, I don't know, man, go somewhere else, figure it out.
Yeah, we don't care about you anymore.
Is like, they probably feel a little bit lost for that moment.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah, definitely. Because there are definitely a lot of families where, like, they got a kid who's 10 years old, and after a few times at the wheel mill, like, the parent is like, I've never seen my kid this excited about something in their life. And we know that this Target bike is not going to, like, work for them. Where can we get a decent bike for my kid? So, like, that's one of the reasons we started carrying more completes, because, yeah, exactly what you said. We just had more parents that were like, to them, this is their safe place where they know, that their kid is happy, and they're like, can we get a bike from you? Because we, don't know what other shop to go to. And, like, you guys are the ones that sort of, like, fostered us from nothing to, like, where my kid is, like, super stoked about riding. So, yeah, definitely we'll have that crowd too, which is cool. That'll be nice. And then, yeah, I feel really bad when we, like, sell somebody, like, a fork, and we're, like, in the middle of winter, and we're like, oh yeah, I don't know if we can put that on for you today because we don't have, like, a full-time mechanic.
Yeah.
Or, like, we can't build you a wheel or true your wheel because we don't have a full-time mechanic, or whatever it is. So I always felt really bad about that, but we just never had it in the physical space, and we never had it in the budget to be able to, like, have staff like that. So I think,
is a full-time mechanic a plan then?
Yeah, for sure.
At least like a probably 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or whatever.
Yeah, for
Cool.
sure. Yeah. So that'll be cool.
Good. So you've been open for, like, the remote sales thing. Is that really all you've been able to do, other than, like, obviously we're sitting here, I know you've got other things going on.
Yeah.
You already alluded to it a little bit, but
right.
What have you been able to do as a business owner that can't operate his business?
Right. Well, like, we had been talking about expanding the shop, and, like, you knew about those plans, like, before all this stuff ever happened, and me musing about how am I going to get this remodel done while we're still open? And careful what you ask for, because I got all the time in the world to remodel. So yeah, so we're doing a major remodel. I think it's going to look awesome. It's going to flow a lot better, and like the getting in the park should be a lot faster and easier, and like navigating
less confusing, where you have to like,
where do you go to check in?
Excuse me to dock your bike before you can circle back to check in and cross line it.
For sure. It's going to make way more sense. So hopefully like that'll be like way less stressful for people who are like, I need to ride. So yeah, it'll improve that. It'll give us that expanded shop area. It'll give us more retail space, so we'll have more cool parts in, which I'm stoked about. We're probably going to double the retail shop area, so that'll be good. So yeah, major remodel, fixing up all the old building shenanigans.
I'm going to throw this out there because I don't have a pen to write it down. That's something to talk about offline. Yeah. But if you thought about any like quick scan contactless entry for like, say, a pass holder, where we don't even have to check in, like using a kiosk or something, we can just scan a card or something and be checked in.
We have we used to have those fobs that you could just scan, so we might just bring those back.
Okay.
Yeah. But we have been able to do it like contact, non-contact, just by taking people's names, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know? So
well, I know that
other than like the wristband, which we could figure some workaround for that.
Yeah.
Whatever. Put a purple pen on your face or something. I don't know.
If we all had fobs or passes of some sort, then it's like kind of defeats it anyway. But
yeah.
Like, here's my card. I'm good.
Right. And we.
But I know it's there's other reasons you're doing it too.
Yeah, definitely. But we've had some awesome help from Ink Division. It's been running the throwback T-shirts and that kind of stuff. Has been awesome, and everyone who's bought those, that's been really cool. One Feather Press with the bandanas.
Yep,
has been super cool.
Where are they at? I've like never heard of them until I saw them running those bandanas.
Like physically, where their location is?
Yeah. Are they local here?
Yeah, I want to say they are. I don't know. That's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know where they print out of, but they've done some other stuff for us in the past. So
cool.
Yeah, they've always been supportive of the park, which is awesome. And then Scotty Kramer nominated us for the Vans Foot the Bill program.
Yep.
Which is kind of like, I'm still in disbelief because I was like an 80s kid and like always had checkerboard Vans. And then I don't remember what year it was. I think it was like 1980, I'm going to say like 1984 or 85. They came out with the Jungle Print Vans. And I was like, I had Jungle Print Jams. And I was like, I'm going to be the coolest kid because I'm going to have Jungle Print Jams and Jungle Print Vans. And I have to go over to my mom's house and go through like all the old pictures because I know there's like a picture of me in the like full Jungle Print. But like Mason Ritter has helped a lot with, he designed the bandana.
Yep.
He's designed some of the shirts and he did the design for the shoe. And that's been really fun. Like that whole Vans custom shoe thing is just cool just as it is because like you really get to you can really
I was surprised when I got on there like how much detail they're allowing you to customize from like trim edges and stuff and the pinstripe along the side. I'm like,
right, yeah, and the little like elastic in the
like that's slightly more than what I anticipated being able to customize about this shoe.
Yeah, you can get you can come up with some cool stuff. I was like, after getting a couple pairs, I was like, all right, I need to stop for a second, because you just start getting that zone of like, oh, well, what if I did this brown here and then kind of like go to this other?
You're like, if I spend $90 on my own custom shoes to get, I don't know what you're getting out of 10, 15 maybe.
No, they're doing really. They're like helping us out a lot.
Is it a pretty substantial amount? That's
like,
awesome.
They're being super generous. Yeah.
But either way, if you're buying your own shoes, you're not actually helping yourself out.
I know, but it's so cool. I can't help it. Yeah, that's super. That's amazing, and they are doing really well by us. Like they are, they're like kicking in a huge amount.
Does that money get like funneled to you after each sale then, or is it like one lump sum at
So
the end?
it's there's a end date to it, which is like 2 weeks from now, and then after that, then that money will get dispersed after that.
Okay.
So
I'll have to remember to drop the Vans link in this podcast description.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
So anyone that still wants to get in on that one can.
Yeah, I still got a couple of weeks. The end of May is the end of it. So.
It's also, I'm sure, on your website.
On our website, yeah, Instagram, Facebook,
all that stuff.
All that good stuff.
So, yeah, I know. I've seen there's been tons of throwback shirts and like.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to keep track of because I know like Murphy's been running some shirts.
Yeah,
and I think,
that's true. Yeah,
I think some of them were for the wheel mill, and some of them might have been like just, hey, here's some other cool designs I've got out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like hard to keep track of who's doing what for who or where.
And then
like,
there's some cool jaunt stuff, things going on there, too. Yeah, so it's all good stuff.
it's pretty difficult, but that's awesome to know that they're like actually helpful and they're not like a hassle.
Oh yeah, definitely. And and gift cards too. People have been buying gift cards. It's all, things are so tight, not just for us, for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
Like any business owner will tell you, like anything counts. Like right now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I had a very interesting conversation with Carlise a couple weeks ago. We did a remote podcast.
Okay.
We Skyped together.
Okay, cool.
But he was like, dude, I'm not selling gift cards for the shop right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, basically we schedule out, like we're 6 months out on a schedule.
Yeah.
And if I bring all that money in right now,
sure,
I'm working for free in 6 months. It kind of doesn't help me.
Yep.
But I think probably in your case, like that, it's not going to feel like you're working for free in 3 or 6 months or whatever.
Right.
It's gonna trickle in. You might feel like you're giving some stuff away later, but not.
Yeah, we kind of like, because we have a product and a service business. Some of it's going to go to, sprockets, and some of it's going to go to passes, and so it'll get kind of spread between things that are like, hey, I just paid Shadow for all those things, and now I'm giving them away, and some of it will be like, oh, they're riding in a park that's already here.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, like, this is business. You don't like whatever it takes to get to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like it's, and then we also doing things like having Burley Matt come in and build, and so that like when we do reopen, like there's something cool new to ride that we maybe couldn't have built when the park was open, or would have been like harder to figure that out, or would have required closing a whole room or something. So like having a fun little surprise to kind of say like, hey, thanks everybody for supporting. Like, we put some of that money directly into improving the park. That's always been like how we've wanted to do things too. So yeah.
I know that you had like some waiver requests in for the business to be able to be open in some sort of limited capacity. And I know you said that's been reaffirmed that they denied that.
I got the follow-up email just in case you didn't know. In case it wasn't clear the first time we said no. No.
But there's also like different loans and stuff available for, small businesses, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
PPP being like the one that everyone's
Sure.
talking about, which is Paycheck Protection Program.
Definitely.
Is that something that you would qualify for? Did you
We
qualify
did. We did all
for?
of that.
Did you do it?
PPP, EIDL,
Okay.
and then the URA, which is the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
They were amazing. Like within 3 days, I had a loan from them.
Okay.
So March
so you have
19th, I had a loan from
you have some
the URA.
assistance through all that stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
hoping that we can follow the guidelines and have some of it be turned into a grant.
It's like up to 75% of it, right?
It keeps
At least
changing.
Paycheck Protection.
It keeps changing. I don't know. And then like the whole it's without getting into like a massive political discussion or whatever.
Well,
let's just say it keeps
and
changing.
Blowing all your finances to the general public, which they don't necessarily need to know, like how much your payroll is, how much your rent is, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean it's not like a glorious secret,
No,
but
it's
it's boring, and everyone is going through it, and honestly, it's a lot of businesses are in that they're in that terrible limbo zone where it's actually like worse for them to be open, but they're like kind of compelled to be open because they're either an industry that's allowed to operate or they're kind of expected to operate, and then you've got people who are you got staff that's either like at risk or they have family that's at risk. It's a crappy situation for almost everybody in the world.
I don't know anyone that's like, yeah, I love this. So.
Yeah, this is great. Why can't we do this all the time?
No, I'm gonna give you that one for just 2 weeks, where you can slow down and like take a break. Might be cool every year, where it's like not just like, hey, here's your vacation time. It's like, no, everything is just like offline for a little bit.
Like France or something like that, where they just like shut it down.
I think China does it too for almost a full month.
For New Year's, yeah, definitely. No, that'd be great. I'd be down with that. Yeah, the first 2 weeks I was like, what should I do? Are we going to open? Are we going to not open? Are we going to, I was like, I didn't do any of the remodeling. So I killed like 2 or 3 weeks just waiting to like hear some definitive news on.
Yeah, is this going to breeze over and we're going to be good to go? Or?
Yeah. So I didn't touch anything because like I was like, the last thing I want to do is start remodeling, tear stuff down, and then be like, all right, we're good. We're going to reopen. I'd have my pants down and be like, oh, great. So.
Yeah. Because you were already in, like, as soon as they issued the guidelines, you were like, only this many people on a deck, only this many people in this room. Like, you were already implementing the social distancing in both anticipation of like it staying in that manner, and also probably hoping to qualify for a waiver that like this is implemented. It's not.
Yeah. It's, they made their definition very clear of it has to be a life-saving business, but they applied their definition in a very weird way. And it's varied a lot from state to state, even though like a lot of the language is similar in terms of life-saving businesses. I know in some states, like when you go to Target, the furniture aisles are closed and the clothing aisles are closed, and the only part of Target that's open in other states is just the grocery part.
Yeah.
But in Pennsylvania, you go to Target, the whole thing's open. You go to Home Depot, the whole thing's open. You go to, Costco, the whole thing's open. So it's like, it's been applied in a little bit of a not my favorite way here in terms of like the idea of fairness, which is kind of an arbitrary concept, but and it's like you go to Frick Park and it's like packed with people, and that's part of what I was trying to say with my application for exemption was we can do a better job of enforcing social distancing than you're doing at Frick Park or any other public park, because there's nobody there enforcing social distancing or masks or anything like that. But we can actually do that here, and you can hold us accountable to it here. So,
yeah.
But they're like, no, you're not a life-sustaining business. I was like, you just Do I need to like get like 4,000 parents who are going crazy with their kids home all day long to tell you that is life sustaining?
Yeah. Yes. That's really interesting to like think about it in that regard, though, because I haven't really spent any time out at parks or whatever.
Yeah.
Other than on the way here, I saw even down by the police station the little like track. I don't know what that's called.
Yeah.
But there were a bunch of people out riding on that, and it's like,
oh yeah,
all right, well this bike park's open, so
yeah, it's totally unregulated.
It just felt weird, but all of it feels weird.
Yeah,
and then I teeter personally on the line of like, I get that you're trying to protect everyone, but as we move into this yellow phase, and now they're going to like segregate which non-essential businesses are extra non-essential.
Right.
Now it's like, no. All these people have just as much right to be in business as anyone else. Same as I said about using the park, right?
Right.
Like, let's take a hair salon, for example. While I think it's non-essential.
Hey, me too.
If that owner of the salon is comfortable and wants to open their business, they should be allowed to, barring that they follow all the extra precautions that may be applicable for their situation.
Sure, yeah.
And taking into account, like, you can't hang out in the barber shop and wait for your turn. Like, it's appointment only. Right. Sorry, it's inconvenient, whatever.
Yeah.
Appointment only. You wait in your car.
Yeah.
We'll call you and screen you before you come in.
Yeah. You're
going to deal with an extra 10 minutes of like cleanup and processing of the area beforehand.
Right.
Haircut's probably going up by $5 to cover the time lost and the cleaning supplies, whatever.
Right.
But here's the protocol. Here's how we're going to handle it.
Yeah.
If you're comfortable, go get your haircut.
Right.
If you're not, then frickin' stay home.
Yeah, definitely.
But I feel like that applies for all those businesses, whether it's hair salon, nail salon, tattoo parlor. If you're comfortable and the artist is comfortable, I don't really see what the problem is.
Yeah,
I mean,
if it's sort of like
you're bringing a lot of people into contact in a short period of time. I guess, a barber shop just doing quick trims do 4 people an hour.
Yeah.
And 10-hour day, and now if the first person that was in there on day one had it, gave it to you, you expose 40 people a day for the next 3 weeks before you show symptoms. Like,
and I get it. Like the goal is to reduce, not to eliminate. And it's like we all have to go to the grocery store. So you don't want every other person at the grocery store to now have all those compounded exposures from all the other things, because you can elect not to go to the hair salon, but you can't elect not to go to the grocery store.
Yes.
So it's like, I get it. Like, we all have to go to the grocery store. So I don't want to be around a bunch of people who have all these other exposures. But it's once you start saying, okay, now some of you can open, and then now the rest of you can't still, then it starts. I think it should just either be like life essential only or everything else.
And again, like with guidelines and restrictions, like if you wanted to do 25% capacity, then so be it. If you got to pay one extra person to stand at the door and track the ins and outs at every store.
And then there's going to be some things where it's really weird, like if you're like, oh yeah, we're going to have a convention at the convention center, then it's
I don't think so.
Then it's like, okay, but everyone's going to have to be 6 feet apart, so you're only going to be able to have 200 people in this room at once.
But that brings up a good point, because there's entire industries around conventions and
for sure
conferences and stuff, and it's like, right back to the it has every right to be open as anyone else's business. So,
yeah, I mean, yes
but
and no. I mean, and then it's like, I mean, all of it would be moot if we were confident that the government was going to make sure we got through this.
mm-hmm.
Then you could say, all right, like, let's everybody do exactly what the best thing is, and the government will make sure that we all come out of this on the other end. And then it would be like, oh, okay, cool. We'll just do the best thing, and we'll all just stay home, and we'll all bite the bullet on all that stuff, because I know that when this is finally cleared through, whatever, financial difficulties I had, the government's going to cover it, and it'll just be like clean slate, we'll be good to go. But that's not what's happening. So people are trying to,
When there's no clear answer as to how anything's happening, because it's all political song and dance that
yeah, totally.
that we don't have to get into.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might actually be a good time to move on from that discussion, or else we will anyway. Okay, with having implemented social distancing early at the park, and it wasn't enough to meet the state's requirements. How do you envision and I know this is total speculation, what do you expect that to be like when you're allowed to reopen? Do you think we're most likely going to still have some sort of social distancing protocol, and how is that going to affect the park? And maybe it's too early to even address this question.
No, I mean, I think we have to start thinking about it regardless, even if like it is too early, probably. Based on the last email I got from the state that was like reiterating their position, I do think at some point they are just going to say everybody's allowed to be open, but you have to meet these particular distancing criterias, mask wearing criterias, screening criterias.
That's wearing masks and riding is gonna suck,
dude. I did that in Frick Park, and I almost like went unconscious. Like my mask got all like soaked from sweat, and it would just kept sucking into my face, and I was like,
you're waterboarding yourself.
Totally, it was horrible. And then I had to like pull it down when there was nobody around and ride, and then I put it back up when I saw somebody. But so we'll see what their guidelines are, and then we will, we'll see what it would look like for us to adhere to those guidelines. I think we would probably do things like no rental equipment, like no rental helmets, no rental bikes, touchless entry, like basically say like, hey, you can buy a pass online, but you can't buy a pass from the counter because we're not going to take your credit card or your cash or whatever. So we'll just come in, give us your name, and we'll check and see that you bought your pass or you have a membership. And then keeping those distance, like the maximum occupancy on the decks and things like that, would probably still be something. And then just like reminding people like, hey, just leave your hands on your handlebars, like don't touch the railings, don't whatever, just that kind of thing. Just friendly reminders about that stuff. I think we can do, and kind of the same with everything else that we do. Like, I think we could operate safely under like situation like that, and I could go to bed at night feeling like I was doing the right thing, and that it was a net positive in terms of potential risk versus reward for people, like to get physical activity and to get their head straight and all that stuff, riding their bikes. So I think we could. And you do that one lap on the pump track with your mask on, and you sit around for 5 minutes trying to catch your breath, and it's all good.
It's going to be rough. But
you know what? When this is all over, if we've been riding with masks on for like months and months, we're going to be like the fittest human beings ever. We're going to all have like insane lung capacity. Like, it's going to be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to breathe real deep and be like,
Just like, yeah, do 40 pump jack
We're gonna be
claps.
so oxygen high, it's ridiculous.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. But I think we'd be able to, and I also think like we're even, we're not a gym. Like we don't have shared equipment. You don't have to sit on the same bench and pick up the same weights and be on the same machine and all that kind of business. So I think we just kind of emphasize those characteristics of our facility and
probably close the foam pits. I see that's like pretty common.
Yeah. So just keep it to where contact is eliminated, and then we have to be considerate of our staff too. Like we have staff that have families that are like highly at risk, like seriously at risk, and it's the real deal for unfortunately, like a lot of people have died from this. So it's not a joke, and it's not to be taken lightly. So yeah, we'll see what the recommendations are, the guidelines are, and all that kind of stuff. And if we can do that correctly, then we'll do it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna just guess that like with limited capacities and deck space and stuff, it may be like a make appointments to come ride type thing.
Yeah, we might have to do sessions like
suck
that.
Short term, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like I don't even want to go there because it's a big risk for us, like because we'll have to have staff here full time. But what if nobody signs up for 5 to 6 o'clock or whatever, like the time slots are, then it's like, okay, paid staff to be here, but then nobody came to that time slot, and
yeah, it's stupid.
And now I'm losing more money than if we had just been closed, so it's like, we don't want to get to that because staff is one of our biggest expenses here,
Well, and I mean, going down to, it's a sub question of that, but like, if that becomes the norm, not just for a short period of time, but hey, this is the new norm.
Sure.
Like, that's totally going to impact your pricing structure and your past structures, and it's going to take the model that you built that I would say was awesome.
Cool.
And I've been telling everyone it's awesome, where you're almost paying more for what you value out of it, which is like it's a club, right? Like you show up here, you pay your membership dues, and you get either discounts in the shop or you get, unlimited riding time, whatever. But you're paying your dues. It helps the bottom line of the business.
Yeah.
If you have enough people doing that,
right.
that it cuts out the like, oh, I only got like 2 hours tonight, I'm not going to drive down and try to ride. So like,
for sure,
it keeps that side really great. And for the people that aren't sure they want to be members, then you pay session by session.
Sure, yeah.
But you kind of take away the like, there's a weird thing with a bike shop where you're not paying for what you value out of the bike shop, which is the space to congregate.
Yeah.
But like, you can come to the wheel mill, and maybe I didn't actually want to ride today, but I like wanted to hang out with my friends and catch a bike video playing down in the lounge, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
I'm a member here. That's cool to do.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm probably buying snacks and drinks or whatever, and maybe brought a friend with me and whatever.
Yeah.
But if that all has to change, like that model might go away. And it's a model that I think other parks should have been looking at.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you see some parks and it's like $100-something a month fee, but the park only costs $10 a session. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
There's a disconnect here. And like, I get that your business and where your market needs to be, but like, 10 times a month does not make sense to me.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah.
Again, I don't know where any of that will go. I don't even want to speculate into that for you because
that's going to be a tough one if that's what we have to do, because there's just so much other complication with that, and risk like financially, and it sucks. Like now you're going to have to. Now you're gonna have to call all your friends and see, like, hey, you guys got to sign up for the 7 o'clock session.
Oh, the 7 o'clock's full. Mom, can you take me down at 8?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it just sounds terrible.
Yeah,
You know, and
sounds awful.
it really does sound awful, you know. And it's like, and there are people that like work and they get out at a particular time, and they're like, this is the only time. This is between when I get out of work and I have to go home for dinner with my family, or people that are like, you know, whatever it is, like everyone's got a situation and they come here at the time they can come here. And if it's like those spots are going to be like randomly taken up, that just sucks. Like,
Well,
we'd have to try to figure something else out.
Some of them might be like all of a sudden 8:30 at night, and it's like, holy crap, I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm running down to the wheel mill for an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know,
Yeah.
that's me usually. Like, wait, I don't have anything going on. Oh,
All right. Yeah. Opportunity.
yeah. I mean, we can't really speculate into any of that without,
Yeah.
other than addressing like these are things that might be real.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it's a scenario that I would put on the list of like potentially could end up like this. Yeah, for sure.
Especially where, you know, if you got a letter back that said, hey, you can open tomorrow.
Yeah.
No more than groups of 10. I mean,
Yeah.
I would think that because they're separate rooms, you could probably get away with that
Mm-hmm.
and be like, well, 10 people per room.
Right. Right.
But that would still be like, okay, what's that afford you? Like 80 people to be here?
Yeah. Which I'd be happy with, you know, that we could make
Better
that.
than 0.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than
We
0.
could make 80 work, but if it's like 25, then it's like 25 for how long, you know, like, do we have to split it up in sessions now? And
Yeah.
then you start going down that road again. So yeah. And I'd really much rather leave the model like, come whenever you want, but it's only this many people, you know, and then hopefully like the limits.
First come, first serve.
Yeah.
But, you know, show up, drive an hour from Indiana or someone from out that way.
Or make the sessions like long enough that it would be like, if you come in at 2:00 and you're out by 6:00 or 7:00.
People are going to have to understand, whatever it ends up being, that it's not because that's the way you want it to be.
Yeah. Someone will complain. That's all right. We'll get a bad Google review.
You can just comment back under it and be like, coronavirus.
Yeah. Hello, coronavirus.
Well, all right, let's bring it up right now then, because the question is, have you been working on anything fun while shut down?
Yeah.
Park changes, any event ideas, anything like that? I know Next Gen was supposed to be happening, and that's indefinitely postponed.
Yeah.
Did you have a mountain bike event that was supposed to be happening too?
We had Ride Like a Girl. That got canceled, which sucks because we already had a bunch of people signed up for it, and we just refunded everybody. And it's sad, but because we had made some changes this year that we all thought were like really gonna solve problems that we had in the past, and we were also kind of linking up with Bike Pittsburgh, who was having their women and non-binary biking forum like the next month. And we were going to kind of, you know, once again, like everybody's looking at like the cycling pyramid, we were going to have like a really low cost, really entry level rider program at the Women and Non-Binary Forum, so that we could kind of pull that demographic out of the Ride Like a Girl weekend, so that we didn't have such a skill level range. So we'd really like, you know, had this, it was going to be a great year, or at very least like a really great effort, you know, on like, how do we really optimize the time and the money for everybody? And then, that all got canceled. So that was a huge bummer, but, events, not even thinking about it. You know, we might be able to do, some private lessons with this situation. Like, so we're going to look at that. We're going to look at camps, because that's like a finite kind of thing that I think would be okay. We already talked about having like a lower age limit because like little kids can't stop touching each other and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so, like, can it just be like, kid has to be like old enough to be able to like follow the distancing rules and that kind of thing. So, looking at that. But yeah, we got Burley Matt working, doing the remodeling. Yeah, just keeping our heads down on that stuff right now.
And the shop remodel, that's when people are able to come back in, they're not even going to recognize it.
Yeah. It should be sweet.
I got to the front door and just went, oh, okay.
Well, alrighty then. Yeah, no more pink walls. So I hope you got to say your goodbyes to the pink walls because they're gone.
No, I don't think anyone had time to say their goodbyes.
Oh,
it's
that's
just
sad.
Got yanked right away from them.
That's right. Yeah.
Like everyone's March, April, May, and who knows what
in the dumpster. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get out and ride when the weather's nice, and if I've been riding in Frick Park, and a couple skate parks are still open. Mike's been going to and stuff, and everyone else. But trying to hang in there with everybody else.
Well, I understand. Fully understand. I think I've really ridden my bike one time.
Oh, really?
It's difficult to get out. I've got the couple ramps I built at my place, but riders so used to being able to just follow.
Oh, yeah.
That like I'll go up to ride the sub box, and now he's underneath me.
Oh, geez.
And I took him out once did a feeble the 270, so I was back turned to him and just crushed him when I landed.
Oh, jeez.
That clip's on Instagram if anyone wants
really?
to check that out.
I have to check that out. I haven't seen it yet. Oops.
It was pretty funny. It was right after. I'm like, dude, we got to take turns. Like, you go, then I'll go. And he's like, I want to go follow.
Yeah.
No,
you go
can't
and then
follow.
I go. And then you go and then I go. Right behind you. I'm taking turns. 2 feet behind you.
But I should have built him a bigger ramp too, because our driveway is like a giant roll-in. But I built a little bank to sub.
Okay.
And he just goes full speed down it and crashes into the sub box. It's pretty funny. Wrapping up on this though, close out the podcast anyway.
Cool.
Anyone you want to thank right now again, and then like, how does anyone reach out to you?
So thank everyone who has bought a t-shirt, bandana, gift card, parts that we've got, bikes that we've got, vans, and then thank One Feather Press and Ink Division and Scotty Kramer and Vans and Mason and Murphy and Mike and everybody that's been helping us get through this. Burley Matt is just coming in on his free time. We're just trying to feed him lumber, and that's all super crucial. So thank everyone for that. That's really huge, and we're gonna try to have, try to have some like cool stuff, coming out of this,
Yeah.
So hopefully it's like a win. You coming out of this with a win here, So definitely got to thank all those people for like pushing through, and everyone who's been helping out. That's huge.
All right.
You can get a hold of us. You can message us through the socials, and info@thewheelmill.com. As far as email, if you got something bigger you want to email me, just info@thewheelmill.com. It's awesome. That's about it.
All right. I'm good with that. Thanks for taking the time to do this, Harry.
Well, thank you for like coming head on into a subject that a lot of people want to like brush off because it's maybe not the answer you want to hear.
It's an uncomfortable discussion probably in some ways as well.
Yeah. And Yeah, and like, and it's definitely my, my fault for not being ahead of it. I think that's something I could have done way better, of kind of like telling people, hey, we're making these changes and this is why, and this is like what, the reasoning behind it is. So that's definitely like in the future need to be more proactive about that so that people kind of are like, oh, this is that thing he was talking about. Okay.
Well, and I think also like even part of the reason I wanted to do this is I know outright a lot of it's either myself or my friends that are quote unquote the problem.
Well, you've got like the perfect storm. You've got like yourself riding, and then you've got a kid on a balance bike. So you're holding down both sides of it.
I'm the perfect example of like I get it, but I don't like it too.
Yeah, totally.
I have to get it because I have the monster.
Yeah, you got the little monster. Yeah.
But
Awesome.
no, I really appreciate it. I think hopefully this is good for you. Should give everyone a little bit of light onto like day-to-day stuff around the park.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone's curious what's going on right now with the coronavirus stuff. So if anyone held out that long, now they know.
Now they know. That's it. The official word.
But no, I really appreciate it. I think
thank you. Thank you.
Been a good time. I'll have to snap a picture of you laying in your mountain of tires and whatnot since it's audio only. But
awesome. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Cool,
I'm going to wrap this one up then.
Cool, dude.
Thanks for checking out the episode. I hope that you guys got a lot out of that and are also looking forward to stopping back at the wheel mill once they're able to reopen. I'll post some links down in the description where you can pick up the Vans shoes. Right now they're still available. If you're listening to this in a couple weeks, they probably won't be. And, where you can pick up gift certificates and just general interaction with the wheel mill. So that's that. Another thing is don't forget that we are doing Insta Jams. So we already did a podcast on this. It was episode 37. And just to recap real quickly, they look like mini contests on Instagram. I'm going to be posting one a week. You'll have a week to submit your entry. These are jams. These are about participation, having you guys come in, hang out, do something cool, get a shout out, and then we also have prizes and a couple other sponsors, coming in to support this as well. So there will be prizes. The first one was quarantine bar spins. That will be over this Saturday, the 17th. Yeah, 17th, 15th, 16th. I don't know what day it is because it's 1:30 in the morning. Okay, Saturday the 16th, it's over. So that means get your submission in now. One thing that's been a very big question is, what do? I can't bar spin. A lot of you guys already know this. Some of you don't. I don't care if you can bar spin. I don't care if you do a hop bar spin. I don't care if you lay on your back and do a bar spin. I don't care however you want to come up with this. I want to see you guys do something cool. I want you to participate. So that's the goal. Keep that in mind as these challenges move forward as well. Most of them are pretty open-ended. I can't think of one that's worded as best. There's one that has probably a definitive winner, but also if multiple people do the challenge, it's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong on that one. If multiple people do the challenge, there will be multiple winners. Let's just put it that way. But that's not for a couple weeks. There's also prizes for participating in all of them. So even if you can't hop bar, but you want to do something, make sure you join in. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode. Again, I'm glad that I got to sit down with Harry. We got to, he and I had already had this discussion once before, so none of this was new to either of us. We pretty much already knew which direction we wanted the discussion to go, but definitely thought it was valuable information for you guys. So check them out at thewheelmill.com. Check them out at thewheelmill on Instagram. I don't know what their Facebook is, but I'll figure that out. And if you need to email anything of context, reach out with another opportunity for fundraising, anything like that. Their email is info@thewheelmill.com. So you can reach out to them there. And then also, if you're finding this and you don't already follow GrindWorks on Instagram, please check us out. It's at GrindWorks_BMX. And that's on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. Then it's at GrindWorks BMX with no underscore on Facebook, Mixer, Xbox if you play Xbox, YouTube, and any of the podcast sites such as Anchor or iTunes, Spotify, anything like that. You'll find it on just at GrindWorks BMX. So I think that's everything. TikTok too. I don't use it. I tried it. I'm not really into it, but it's there. If people start following it, maybe I'll be forced to use it. So anyway, this outro was kind of long-winded, but it's okay. Wanted to talk about the jam, Insta Jams. Wanted to talk about a couple of things. So anyway, thank you. Enjoy your day. Stay safe. Whatever that means for you, and to whatever degree that you are, practicing social distancing or any of that. So have a good night. It's late for me. I'm out.